Hi, this is Bethany Gonyea, founder of Numinous, the organization that sponsors the Albany Peace Project. And today I have this amazing blessing of speaking with Dr. Joe Dispenza, author of 3 books, Evolve Your Brain, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and his latest New York Times bestseller, You Are the Placebo. Dr. Joe, thank you so much for meeting with us today.
Thank you, Bethany. I'm happy to support your vision.
Thank you so much. You know, we've been talking a lot about why this webinar, I believe, is so important. You know, so much of your work that's out on the internet and in the media and your TED Talk talks about how you teach people how to go deep into their nervous system to access our inner technology to help change our external circumstances. And you know, has helped so many people personally, but I don't think people necessarily realize that it's a pretty small step to how much that same mechanism helps themselves can actually lift the whole of the world and actually help facilitate more of a global peace. And I'm hoping that today's webinar, we can talk about that, bring out that aspect of your work, because I know of so many people who are feeling so disempowered, so victimized just from the evening news and just waiting for the world to fall apart, and yet your message offers such incredible hope. So can you start by talking a little bit about peace research and all of that?
Well, the whole reason that we started off getting interested in what we call Project Coherence is because of a few studies that we did last year in Germany during one of our events. And we had 550 people gathered in a room, and we had 50 people in the front of the room wearing heart rate monitors that measure what we call heart coherence. And that kind of function is part of what we call the autonomic nervous system. It's happening kind of behind the scenes of our awareness. So we had our students start out with, when we start out a lot of our meditations in our advanced workshops, by generating an elevated emotion. And then once they lock into that elevated emotion, to broadcast that energy beyond their body and radiate it. And by radiating that energy, they're radiating a frequency. And all frequency carries information. So we ask them on that energy, on that frequency, on that emotion, to lay an intention. The emotion or the energy would be the carrier wave for the thought or their intention. And when you combine that clear intention with an elevated emotion, the energy field around the body tends to expand. The more coherent the heart becomes, it's like banging a drum with a specific rhythm. It produces very coherent waves. Dropping a pebble in the water is producing a ripple effect. And if you can time and pace the amount of drops of stones, you're going to produce consistent waves. And that's exactly what we're measuring. And then on those waves is what we place a thought or intention on. So we had our student body, the 500 people, focus for the greatest good of all the people wearing the heart rate monitors in the front of the room. And what made it so interesting was that at the exact same time, in the exact same meditation, on the exact same day, 90% of those people all went into heart coherence at the same time, which kind of started the whole idea that we are connected by an invisible field of consciousness, invisible field of energy that really takes place when we open our hearts. And the antithesis is also true, which means then when you're living in stress and you're living in survival and you're angry and you're impatient and you're frustrated and you're bitter or judgmental or resentful, the heart tends to beat out of rhythm, and the energy field around our body tends to diminish. It tends to shrink. When that occurs, we produce less effects on the nature of reality, or less effects in contributing to the unified field, which is the kind of continuous field in quantum physics of information that binds all of us. So when we saw that kind of supernatural changes going on, and the researchers at HeartMath Institute were really impressed with our studies and said, wow, you know, your data is really supernatural. And I said, yeah, I keep telling you our students are supernatural, because for that kind of, the statistics, in order to produce that type of event with such specific coherence, is way beyond chance. Our statistical analysis shows that there was some definite intention or effect involved. And then right around that time, we saw that Germany opened up their borders last year to Syrian immigration, which was a selfless act. And so students then said, hey, I have any type of a study globally. And so that kind of started in this project called Project Coherence. And so I started looking into the research, and there's been over 50 peace gathering studies. There's been 23 peer-reviewed articles on the power of peace gathering projects. And it tends to show that when you have people anywhere between 2,000 and 8,000 people, and some of the studies show that you have to meditate consistently for a 2-year period. But what the studies show over and over again is that there's a diminishing in terrorism, with fires, with robberies, with war, car accidents. And by the same means, when that occurs, there's always some type of active growth in economic activity. And so, 76% of crime diminished when a group of Lebanese focused on peace in Israel for a period of time. The Rand Corporation did a great 2-year study on a peace gathering project and showed a 71% diminishing in terrorism and violent acts as well, and economic growth. So there's been tons of study to show that this is possible. And these are peer-reviewed studies. They're just not articles that are written in just simple magazines, but they're peer-reviewed. And I think if people really begin to understand how powerful it is, and they begin to understand that they do matter, right, and there are specific techniques that they can learn to enhance the effects of peace and prosperity and wellness, and they understand that it's not only about creating the life for themselves, but to really contribute to this planet that we live on. That kind of selfless act somehow seems to produce significant changes once people understand the science behind it actually works.
Right, right. And so that's kind of this idea that we've been talking about, is this invoking the hero within, that each one of us can take responsibility for our part of the field, so to speak, and lift the whole of the world. But I think you also talk a lot in your meditations about us becoming, no thing, no one, no time, all of that, losing our smaller identity and embracing this larger identity. And can you speak to kind of what happens when we do that, as opposed to being less so self-focused and merging with the greater whole, which is kind of who we really are, right? We're these larger entities than we ordinarily acknowledge.
I think that's a really great question, Bethany, and I think it's a really important point, because like 70% of the time or more, people are driven by the stress chemicals, the stress hormones. And when you're focusing on those effects, you tend to narrow your attention on objects, on things, on matter, on people, on places, because those very chemicals, the cocktail, causes you to pay attention to the danger in the outer world. It causes you to get a rush of energy in your body, so your body gets stimulated, and your senses get heightened, and you become a materialist, defining reality with your senses. The very chemicals of stress cause us to try to control and predict outcomes in our life and force results. And so when people are out of balance because of stress, they tend to think about their job, they tend to think about their partner, they tend to think about their problems. They're shifting their attention all the time from one thing to the next. And if you were to measure the brain when that occurs, the brain waves become very incoherent. They become very out of balance. It's like a group of drummers playing drums all at the same time. And when your brain is incoherent, you're incoherent. And when your brain isn't working right, you're not working right. At the same time, your heart also gets incoherent as well. You get impatient or you get frustrated. The heart beats out of rhythm as well. So now you have your nervous system completely out of order, and your autonomic nervous system and your central nervous system control and coordinate all those systems in your body. You couldn't digest your food, you couldn't blink your eyes, you couldn't avoid bladder, your kidneys couldn't filter blood. Nothing could take place without the aid of your nervous system. So we've done over 4,500 scans on brains either during meditation or before they've gone through a process, and then after 4 or 5 days of meditation. We've measured the effects pre and post. And one of the things that I've discovered is that if you help a person get beyond themselves, that's kind of when they hook up to a greater intelligence or the quantum field. So when you're in a creative state, one of the things about being in a creative state is that you're completely present. You're so focused on what you're thinking about or what you're doing that you forget about yourself. You're not thinking about what's going to happen in the next moment or what happened in the past moment, what you're going to do later on in the day, what you did yesterday. You're completely present. And so we started teaching people how to do the exact opposite, to instead of narrow their focus on matter and objects, on material things, become an interest to focus on energy and information and on space. And it's that action of opening focus that causes us to forget that we have a body, to forget that we're an identity that's connected to people or objects, or things or places, and to really forget about time. Right. And in that moment that you become nobody, no one, no thing, no where, and no time, is the moment you become pure consciousness. And that's the moment your consciousness begins to enter the consciousness of the quantum field. So subjective, free-willed consciousness called Bethany has to leave her identity behind to join the objective field of information, the quantum field, the unified field. And when we do that properly, all of a sudden, different compartments of the brain that have been subdivided because of the hormones of stress that have been functioning incoherently, they start to unify. They start to synchronize. They start to integrate. And what syncs in the brain links in the brain. So people start to feel more whole. They start to feel more balanced. They start feeling more clear. And at the same time, as the brain begins to become more organized and coherent, something amazing happens. The person starts to feel more whole. They feel connected to something greater. Energy from the lower centers of their body moves right up into their chest. When that occurs, they start to fall in love with their creation, and the field around their body tends to expand. The antithesis is also true. When you're overstressed, you're drawing from this vital field of energy around your body and consistently turning it into chemistry. So you're diminishing the very field around your body that creates growth and repair, restores the body, and helps us create better lives that we want for ourselves. So that moment where a person can get beyond themselves and take their attention off their body, off their environment, off their identity, and off of linear time, is the moment, it's the bridge for them to connect to that unified field. That's the access point for them to begin to connect to that field in physics that's connected to all things. And that's when we begin to see the effects taking place.
That's so funny. I knew you'd have a way of just explaining that in an incredible way, because what you just explained is what we observe with the Albany Peace Project, where, for those of you who aren't familiar with our project, we invite people to send peaceful intentions to Albany, New York every day in January. And what happens, it seems as though people tell us that as they do that every day for a month, I remember one of our volunteers saying something changes in us, something shifts. And I've noticed that I tell people, if you participate every day in January, your February will be very busy because of the creativity that just starts blowing out on everybody. So, I'm so glad you labeled that, because I've been trying to encourage people why it would, they'd have some personal benefits if they do kind of become their brother's keeper and send peaceful intentions to a place, that to connect with a population that they maybe wouldn't have thought they have any interest in. But there's this, you just described it so well, that we become more of who we are, our creativity enhances, right? And the benefits of that just cascades throughout our lives. Can you talk any more about that?
Sure. I mean, I think we live in two states of mind. I think we either live in a state of survival, and living in survival is living in stress. And stress is when we're knocked out of balance. And when you're under stress, it's not a time to be creative. It's not a time to be vulnerable. It's not a time to open your heart. It's not a time to learn. It's not a time to give. It's time to run, to fight, or to hide. And that's the primitive mechanisms that, for the most part, create war, create deceit, that create poverty, that create prejudice, that create fear, terrorism. All of that is created because of the hormones of stress. So then, in order for us to truly make a difference, we have to open our hearts, and we have to lay down the very thing we used our whole life to protect ourselves. Open that area up for something greater to occur. And it sounds really easy theoretically, but if you're a single mother with 3 children, you can't pay your bills, you have a serious disease, someone that you love has a serious disease, you're just got fired from your job, it's very difficult to see a new landscape or to be selfless when you have to take care of yourself. So teaching people how to regulate their internal states, and teaching people how those very chemicals can become very addictive to them, and they need the stress in their life to feel something, and teach them the technology and the understanding that they have an effect on their thoughts and feelings. And when they begin to create more brain coherence, something really amazing happens. When they get to that point where they forget about themselves and the brain gets highly coherent, the brain waves tend to slow down from that beta brainwave pattern of putting your attention on the outer world. When you're under high amounts of stress, you're in what's called the high beta brainwave patterns, which is a dangerous place to be. That's when the brain is super aroused. So when the brain is in that state, it's turning on a primitive nervous system for you to believe that there's a predator running directly behind you. And of course, if you're spending that much time in emergency mode, your body begins to break down as well, because no organism in nature can live in that kind of state of emergency for extended periods of time. So when we teach people how to move from that kind of high beta brainwave pattern to slow their brainwaves down into alpha, and in alpha, your inner world starts to become more real than your outer world. And at the same time, you're producing very coherent brainwave patterns, and alpha tends to be the creative state. That's when you start seeing a new landscape. That's when you start thinking differently. That's when you start getting new ideas. That's when you start getting downloads of information. We can actually see it on the brain scans that we've studied. So it turns out that the Earth has an electromagnetic field, just like you and I have an electromagnetic field. And that field resonates at about 7.8 cycles per second, which is exactly the perfect state for a brain to be in, and in the creative state, in alpha. So then you get this kind of harmonic taking place between the individual who's resonating at the same ambient frequency as the Earth. And when that occurs, you're connecting to a field of information where you can begin to lay a thought and a feeling on it, and begin to have that thought and feeling and that energy be transmitted, for the most part, all around the globe. And so when people start to realize that they can exert that much effect, I think they would take it a little bit more seriously. And the side effect of it is, and we've done the research on this, if you're experiencing peace or gratitude or joy or inspiration, the worst thing that's going to happen to you is your immune system is going to get stronger. We did a study in February. We took a group of 120 people, and we had measured their cortisol levels. And cortisol levels are correlated with the amount of stress that we have. So as cortisol levels go up, your immune system goes down. The higher you are in chronic stress, the more you suppress your immune system, because all of your energy is going to some threat in your external environment, and there's no energy in your internal environment for growth and repair. So you begin to tap the body's resources for long-term building projects. So we reasoned what would happen if we taught people to do the opposite. Instead of feeling fear or anger or bitterness or judgment or hatred or resentment or anxiety or guilt or shame, what if they were to create elevated emotions like peace and gratitude and thankfulness and kindness and love? Is it possible at the end of 3 days would their immune system go up and their cortisol levels go down? So we measured a chemical called IgA, or salivary immunoglobulin A. And it's the primary defense against bacteria and viruses. It's better than any flu shot. As a matter of fact, it works better than a flu shot because it attacks viruses very well. So at the end of 3 to 4 days, we found that our students' cortisol levels went down 3 standard deviations, which is very significant.
Right.
Their IgA levels went up from 52.5 to 87. Now that is very significant in terms of science. That means that they boosted their immune system by thought alone. And so 10 minutes of gratitude, 10 minutes of peace a day, the worst thing that could happen is that your body begins to regenerate in a healthy way.
Absolutely. So tell us about what Institute of HeartMath measures, those coherent sensors. I mean, can you talk about that?
Well, I mean, they have placed sensors in different parts of the globe, and in a sense, they're like random event generators. They're measuring like a binary code of pluses and minuses, ones and zeros and ones. And just like after 9/11, they measured a significant change in elevated emotions because people were bonding, they were taking care of one another, they cared about one another, they had each other's back. And that was measured globally as an increased energy on the planet. They also noticed that before the attacks, just moments before the attacks, there was a diminishing in energy in the Earth's magnetic field as well. So we do a lot of work with HeartMath. We partner with them in a lot of the studies that we do in our workshops. And they have a great vision, which is to help heal the planet as well. And I think that more people who align with this should jump on, because the research is there and people want to make a difference. And the cool thing about it is it's not going to take much time or energy or resources for a person to sit down for 30 minutes or 20 minutes and get beyond themselves and open their heart and really sustain an elevated state for an extended period of time, and then measure the effects. I mean, that's what we're doing on Sunday. We're going to measure the effects of our own personal project that we're doing with our students, and we'll probably have over 6,000 or 7,000 people on our coherence.
Oh, excellent. Do you know how long it'll take to get some results from that?
I don't know yet, but I will find out.
Right. So it's really very accessible for people. I mean, just to retrace what Dr. Joe was saying, right? It's this idea that we're moving ourselves into the alpha brainwave state, which also works with what Schumann's constant, which connects us to the earth, which means that when we transmit an intention through an elevated emotion, so talk to me through there. Basically, through the Schumann's constant, we connect to the Earth's intelligence. Is that correct?
Right. So everything is energy. Everything is frequency, right? So when you combine that elevated emotion with a clear intention, the intention then is the thought that's being carried on that energy. And now you're creating an electromagnetic signature, just like the Earth's electromagnetic signature. And we are species that belong to this amazing planet. So you basically hook up to its field. So if you have enough people hooking up to the field, we're both sending information, but we're also receiving constant information as well. Right. So some of the research that's been done at HeartMath, which we're going to work on reproducing, is that let's say that you go into heart coherence in 10 minutes and go into brain coherence in 10 minutes. But the people in your family that you love, those people tend to have an effect on their heart, even if they're not even focusing on it. So then if the field is strong enough, then those people that are your family should produce an effect on their friends. And you see this kind of rippling effect that takes place so that everybody's moving out of that state of fear, that state of anger and aggression and competition, more into a state of wholeness and love. And that's actually, if you think about it, what creates community. Community is based on those elevated emotions. And it just seems like everything in the world is reminding us of the opposite. Right. So now, but it's not enough to stop there. I mean, crime rates do drop, violence does go down, terrorism does change, economic growth goes up, police reports go down, fires go down, disasters go down. Yeah, we have the effect on that, but after a period of time, when the peace gathering projects end, those rates seem to return back to the same level. So it's important for us to do that, but there's another level, and that other level is the demonstration of peace. So if you truly feel peace within you, and you truly have been practicing cultivating these states of mind and body, then walking out into your life and taking that and doing something with it, forgiving somebody or letting go of something or forgiving a loan or helping somebody in some way, the act of doing it then gives people permission to do the same. So then if you saw someone taking care of someone else, and you saw a lot of people taking care of other people, and it was just part of the social norm that we lived in, then everybody, we're social creatures. We behave in the same way. So all of a sudden you have a community of people all of a sudden helping one another, which I believe is our innate tendency. It's our innate nature. It's who we are. If you keep reproducing the experience enough times, you will begin to neurochemically condition your mind and body into an innate process of becoming an automatic state. So we go from philosopher to initiate to master, from thinking to doing to being. And I think that getting people into demonstration is the next step. Because if you're truly feeling it within you, then it's almost impossible for you to not do it. And so I think that the next step, after we kind of create these changes in an electromagnetic way, we begin to produce those effects, I think the next step is to demonstrate it in our lives, demonstrate it so that it ultimately becomes a social norm.
You know, you're kind of hitting on something because, you know, we kind of take for granted that people kind of want a positive emotion or can, I hate to even say, even tolerate it. There's a phrase that always stuck with me from the Pathwork lectures years ago that would say, learning to endure the state of bliss. You know, learning to endure the state of bliss that, and I've been finding, I wonder why is it that people kind of love the idea of meditation, they love the idea of peace research, but the idea of people going from their head to their heart often takes years, or this idea of going into sweet emotions, it isn't necessarily, people feel necessarily that comfortable with it. It's almost like I feel as though we've become these emotional diabetics, these sweet emotional diabetics, meaning that next year the theme of the Peace Project is going to be kind of going back to gorgeous, like helping people to get comfortable with feeling good. It's almost like we walk in this culture always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Everybody's always complaining, oh, the war, this, that, and the other thing, that we almost have lost our ability to hold sweetness. Can you talk about that?
Oh, I'd love to talk about that. Well, it's pandemic in our culture. For the most part, number one, those chemicals of stress are addictive. And so people have to use the people and problems and conditions in their life to reaffirm their emotional addictions. So they need the bad job, they need the bad relationship, they need the poor conditions in their life. They actually need them there to reaffirm their emotion that they're addicted to. So getting a person into the state they feel gratitude or joy or peace for no reason is really rewiring the brain. Now, why is that? Because most people wait for their new job to feel gratitude, their healing to feel wholeness, their success to feel empowerment, their wealth to feel abundance, their new relationship to feel love, you know. And for the most part, that's the old model of reality of cause and effect. We wait for something outside of us to change so we can feel better inside of us. And when we feel better inside of us and the pain goes away, we pay attention to whoever or whatever caused that. And that's kind of the old model of reality. What we're talking about is changing the wiring in our brain to understand that in order for us to really make a change, in other words, we have to feel gratitude in order for our new job to happen. We have to really feel empowered in order to have success. We'd have to feel wholeness first before we'd have a healing. We'd have to be in love with ourselves and be in love with life before we had a new relationship. And of course, we'd have to be worthy and feel abundant in order for our wealth to come. And so it's kind of a rewiring, because when you say to a person, you know, feel that sweetness, feel that joy, feel that gratitude, their brain searches, why would I do that when I have all these conditions in my life? And that's how we've been programmed. So it kind of stops at the brainstem. That thought stops at the brainstem and is a disconnect to the body. So they can intellectualize it, but they can't feel it. And it's really not only rewiring the brain, but then all of a sudden creating a new chemical nature in the brain to begin to affect the hormones of the body. So it's good theoretically, but getting people to generate joy, generate wholeness, generate freedom, generate love. You can teach them how to do that. And if you keep doing it enough times, the word meditation means to become familiar with. Sooner or later, it's going to become familiar to you, and it's going to become an automatic state. So then, in order for a person to do that, they would have to take a moment and close their eyes and disconnect from all the conditions in their outer world. Play soft music in the background or put earplugs in so you would not be distracted by anything in your environment. Sit your body down for a period of time and not get up and eat or smell something or do something to feel something. You're asking yourself to get beyond your body. And if you can be in the present moment and no longer think about what's going to happen in the next moment or what happened in the last moment, being in the present moment, you can't be afraid. You can't be angry. You can't be frustrated. You can't be anxious, because that's when you're back to trying to predict the future based on the past. In the present moment, there is no emotional state. The side effect of that emotional state is bliss. The side effect is wholeness. The side effect is joy. So then, in order for you to change something about yourself, the brain has to focus on the inner world of thoughts and feelings, and that's why meditation works so well. So teaching people then how to find the present moment, to take a little bit of time to cultivate that state, and not just get up and say, I didn't feel like it, I didn't do really well today, I didn't feel like it. No, sit there until you do. Right. And when you start generating those states, the cool thing that happens is you're no longer victim to the conditions in your outer world, because everything you described up until this moment is being a victim to the circumstances in your life. So now we're asking people to be creators instead of victims, to be able to regulate their internal states independent of what's going on in their outer world. And yeah, we all get anxious and we all get emotional, but the question is, how long are you going to stay there? So when people start to regulate those internal states, not only does it produce big changes within them, but they're more kind and more compassionate, more sweet, they're more caring, they're more loving, and then the body gets healthier. It has a side effect of it. So we want to teach people how to sustain those states for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that a Dr. Joe meditation is not a meditation, it's an event. Your meditations, they're systematic, and they take people reliably and systematically deep into the nervous system, and it's like an event. It's like you sit down and do one of your meditations. It's like, all right, there's a period of time, and you're going to take this big journey, and how important that journey is. I don't think people trust that going into those states can really make a difference, and yet it's really the place to be to make the difference.
Exactly, because one of the points is that, and this is kind of instead of looking at the elephant's trunk or looking at the elephant's tail, some people say it's brain coherence, some people say it's heart coherence, some people say it's both. But the truth of the matter is that when you get to that state, you have to get beyond your analytical mind. And what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind, or that autonomic nervous system, is your analytical mind. So then, if you're really heart-centered and you're feeling inspiration or joy or love, the moment you start analyzing, it's going to go away. Right. It's just going to diminish, because the duality of thinking with the dual brain is dividing your energy, and you're going to lose that place of wholeness. This is the place of wholeness. This is the place of oneness. This is the place of the unified field of the walk to our divinity. By the same means, teaching a person how to slow their brainwave patterns down allows them to fall from their conscious mind past their analytical mind into their subconscious mind, into their autonomic nervous system. Now they can plant a seed in possibility. And so I think knowledge then and information and the scientific model tends to be the best model. science, it creates community. It doesn't exclude anybody. The moment you start talking culture or religion or tradition, you tend to divide an audience, but I think science tends to unify it. And I think people want to hear the science behind it because it's a template for them to begin to understand. So when you're conscious within that subconscious realm, now you can execute some really amazing effects, whether you're going to heal your body or whether you're going to change something about yourself in your life. You got to get beyond your thinking, analytical mind in order to do it.
Yeah, I always kind of tell people we have a much bigger Rolodex than we ever realize.
Exactly.
We have this huge Rolodex. We're able to connect with, people on a far greater way, right? And in that,
I think so. Absolutely.
And in that, embodies greater potential for change, for positive change, right? Mm-hmm. So,
Bethany,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the cool things that we know now is that when people really begin to create these states, and they're creating coherent energetic fields next to you, and you're creating a coherent energetic field, and I'm creating a coherent energetic field, they tend to entrain, and they tend to synchronize. And so here's my coherent energetic field, and here's your coherent energetic field. And when they come together, they make a bigger energetic field, and that amplitude then is energy. So if you have 550 people, like we're about ready to do an advanced workshop here tonight in Munich, we have 750 people in the room, and they are all going to move into elevated states. And if you have 750 people in the room, and they're all in a state of coherence, and their energy is beginning to interact, and that interference is constructive, it's organized, you're going to create higher and higher and higher amplitudes, and it should be measured in the room. And we've measured the energy in the room in every single one of our events, and the energy of the room tends to go up. And it's a perfect environment for creating a new life. It's the perfect environment for healing your body. It's a perfect environment for a mystical experience because the energy is amplified enough for people to latch onto. And so what we give out in that state, we tend to receive as well. And when you begin to realize, instead of taking all the time from the field, you're contributing to the field. And you got a community of people that are really passionate about that and passionate about possibility and the unknown. The side effect of that is the unknown. You start to have miraculous things taking place in unexplainable ways. That kind of petri dish of a community of 750 people is essential, because just like a disease creates an infection and amongst the community that produces some type of ailment, I think that health and wellness and peace can be as infectious as disease. And we're seeing that happen because it's energy then, where people begin to make choices about their lives.
Yeah. So I'd like people to just understand that this is a very real phenomenon. This is not just kind of airy-fairy science, which is why I wanted you to come speak about it. And it's reliable, it's repeatable. And if we just have to do the work, right? I always say this work works if you work it. And we just have to be willing to kind of put ourselves aside for a period of time each day to transform our own lives. But then also knowing that we can lift the world. I mean, it's a win-win-win-win-win,
And we had 6,000 people on our first Project Coherence. My goal was to get over 10,000, and I think that if we can really get good at this, I want to see what kind of effects, not only just in the random event generators that are around the world, but also I want to see what type of events change within the community or in the place that we're doing our workshops in. It's always exciting to see that.
Yeah. Okay. So now Sunday morning, August 7th, right? You'll be leading a global coherence at 1:00 in Munich, which is at 7 a.m. in Eastern Standard Time, 4 a.m. in Pacific. Can you just talk briefly about that, what you're going to be doing?
Sure. Bethany, the whole reason I want to do this is because I want to create a community of people that are bound as one energy, as one consciousness. And at the end of our advanced workshops, one of the side effects that's created from the event is that everybody is in a super elevated state.
Yeah, I can vouch for that.
And so, yes. And so why not have 750 people be the seed and have other people join in from all over the world, whether it's from Sydney or Bogota or Mexico City or Toronto or Denver or Albany or wherever in the world, they become additional seeds. And so we'll start off by going through some basic knowledge and information about coherence, basic knowledge and information about the heart and the brain, scans of what it looks like when people connect, and we'll show some hearts that are highly coherent. We'll talk about electromagnetism. We'll show some animations to show how it works, and then we will move into about a 30-minute meditation, and I'll lead people through it, and it shouldn't take more than an hour from start to finish. But the last one was so popular and so successful, we had to run it a second and a third time because people wanted to join in. So I think we'll have a great community of people. I'm certainly excited about it, and I think we're getting some good responses already.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we're certainly going to be encouraging the Albany Peace Project community here in Albany to vote with their heart with you all, and to add to your numbers. That would be excellent. I understand people should go to your Dr. Joe Dispenza official news and fan page and Facebook to see it live. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and all right. Well, I was just wanting to drive this point home about using this work to become heroes, to not look at the news and feel victimized, but to actually look at the news maybe as a call to prayer or a call to intention, for us to kind of use your work as a the science to kind of fortify our belief or to support ourselves in understanding that what we feed the field matters, as Roland McCratty would say, correct?
Sure. And the cool thing about it is that if you disconnect from all of that long enough and you're not living in fear and you're not living in judgment and you're not resentful and you're not frustrated, our innate capacity, our innate nature comes out, which is to take care of one another and to give and to be kind and to support one another. And that's the back door for our change. It's not going to happen with the current way things are going in the world. It'll have to come from a change in consciousness and coming through the back door and creating a field that other people begin to resonate with. That's the importance of what we call entrainment. Because if you got enough people vibrating at a different rate, and sooner or later other people are going to vibrate at that rate, and sooner or later other people are going to begin to feel it. And the next thing you know, you're going to have a significant change and be less seduced by those things in our outer world that remind us of how limited people believe we should be.
And I see your relentless travel schedule, and I can't help but wonder if that isn't part of why you travel so much, right? I don't know, it's just a guess. It just seems as though you have this incredible message of hope and the idea that of traveling the globe to invite people to step up and kind of own their higher nature and their worthiness to the whole. Seems to, is you're traveling from continent to continent, and it makes me feel good to know that you're spreading this message far and wide and maybe empowering people across the globe, so we could get that shift in consciousness that we know would change things dramatically.
Well, I think that if I wasn't seeing the results that we're seeing with people healing themselves or people creating the events in their life that they want intentionally, and if I didn't see those changes taking place, I wouldn't be so passionate about what we're doing. But when we get email after email that's so exciting and so wonderful that as I told my, the sun, the surf's up, and you just have to, if I'm making a difference in some way, I think that's what we all want to do on some level, is to make a difference. When if you have everything you want, if everybody had everything they want, the only thing they would want to do then is really to make a difference. And I think that we should probably start there instead of finish there.
Right. It's like I remember you said at this seminar, like, this is, in the end, this is all there is, really, is to take care of each other and to love each other and create a resourceful environment for all of us to live in.
So be it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you at the advanced thing in Mexico at Breathless. I'm looking forward to that. And
Oh, I'm so excited you're coming.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
one are you coming to, the first one or the second one?
The first one, and I kind of wish I was going to the second one because I know the energy in the room is going to be even greater than.
Nah, come to the first one.
Yeah, okay.
Come to the first one. It's going to be outstanding. Don't even think about it.
Okay, all right. So, so thank you so much. Again, Peace Project people, let's step up. Let's help Dr. Joe. Also, if I could put a call out to Dr. Joe's folk, you're highly trained. You've got some of the best training possible. If you're interested, go to the Albany Peace Project site and sign on in January. We will send you daily coherent meditations. You can send peaceful intentions to the people in Albany, New York to reduce our violence there. We greatly appreciate that. So please, we'll send you a URL. It's actually going to be albanypeaceproject.com/Dr. Joe, DRGOE. And I guess that's it. Anything else?
We'll give a shout out to the Albany Peace Project on Sunday when I start out. So I'll include you guys.
Excellent, excellent. It's a 10-year project. So for the next 7 years, we could use some help. So thank you so much. And we're also looking to inspire other cities. So if cities could organize around this concept, I mean, it's not far-fetched. Everyday people can do it. I'm doing it. I just have a background in biofeedback, but people can get together and organize, especially around Dr. Joe's work, and let's do it. Like, why not? What are we waiting for? I mean, I can't think of a better time on the planet than right now that we pull this research out and start relying on it.
I agree.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a good time tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Bethany.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Okay.
Again, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
How do we do?
I think it came across very well. There was a couple moments where the audio was a little broken up, but we'll have to see on the recording.
Okay,
I think
I'll check my side as well. We can compare.
Yeah, I think overall it went okay. Like the integrity of the information kind of stayed congruent, don't you think? Or
Yes.
stayed
Oh,
consistent?
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I think we did okay. I mean, it could have been better.
I know our audience is gonna be very excited by what they heard Dr. Joe say. So.
Yeah, our plan is to show it at the Unity Church on Saturday and then encourage people to get on in the morning. So.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, when I get up there, I'll do a little shout out to the Albany Peace Project and tell our students to jump in there if they get a chance.
That'd be great. And there's so many people that want to come see you at Kripalu. So if you come back to Massachusetts and Kripalu, we've got a list of people, and everybody got closed out of Toronto. So, you did say you were coming to the East Coast next year or something. Is that?
Yeah, we'll be in the East Coast. We're actually going to do an advanced workshop too in Tampa in February.
Ah, you figured that out. Okay.
Because, so many people running it on the plus progressives in a couple places up and down the coast there too. But I mean, I was just in Mexico City this past weekend, and there was people from Canada there, and I said, "What are you doing in Mexico City?" They said, "It was sold out in Toronto, and we live in Toronto, so we came to Mexico City." So
I got to ask you a question. So knowing that you set these footprints and everything, so you must have pre-planned all this. Is that right? I mean, you've been working in the etheric, and you must have been working on this in your own meditations, right? So does it sometimes blow your mind, like how far things have gone?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm so humbled, in the last 2 years, just with what's happened and how people are getting it. So what I do is I respond to needs and I adapt to conditions. And so I on one level, I love what I do. And on a whole nother level, if no one asked me to ever come back and do, I would stop, because I would get the hint that I shouldn't be doing this. But my theory is just like, I go where I'm invited. And if I can contribute in some way, and I think my mission, my vision is really strong within me. When they stop inviting me, I'll do something else.
So are you taking off the month in August? Don't you usually take off like a month in August or something? I heard you say that before. Do you ever give yourself?
I usually do. I do. I'm not going to take the month of August off. I took 2.5 weeks off in July.
Yeah.
So I had a big tour in Europe, and then I finished in Mexico. And then I took a week in Mexico by myself. And then I went home back to the Pacific Northwest, which is the most amazing time of the year to be in the Northwest is now. And I had a little over a week of a vacation, 10 days of vacation at home. So I'm rested. I'm ready to go back to work. And I'll take another break. I'll take another week off in October, and then 2 or 3 weeks at Christmas time. So I'll do my best to take a little break here and there.
Good, good. You know, your staff has been really fabulous. They've been really kind to us, considering that we're new and we have our growing pains. But Paula and Andrew and all of them, they've been great. So I just want to thank you for that. And yeah, so, all right. So this is good. I guess I'll see you in Mexico.
So we'll see you Sunday morning.
And I don't know, I just feel like I had to say this. So, you know, when I was reading your book, Evolve the Brain, years ago, long story, but it was like 22 years ago that I actually read a Ramtha book that like opened my heart and made me cry like crazy, like in my 20s. So, and I had never like, you know, and it was that book that spontaneously got my heart to open. So anyway, so when I read an Evolve, and that work was always so strong to me. So then when I read an Evolve Your Brain, when you had mentioned that, it was just kind of an interesting, and knowing that you're in the Pacific Northwest and all that. I've never been out there or anything, but very connected to that. And I hear it too, and the nobility and the, you know, I hear it too. So anyway, it's very profound work, and not many people know about it. So.
Well, when you get to Cancun, make sure that you tell Paula, and I'll invite you to lunch with my staff, and you can sit down with us and have lunch with us one day. That would be fun. I would love that. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Well, keep up the great work. I'll help you out as well, and let's keep changing the world. Yay! All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Annie. Okay. Yep. Take care. Bye-bye.